Hello, BookTube. I've got a starter kit for you today in conjunction with a BookTube event. April Adventures, created by young Robin Song Reeds, who created April Adventures to celebrate having adventures in April. Not only reading about them, but perhaps even having some of your own. And then he filmed videos featuring some exquisite original music of his own, and himself sitting in a snake-infested river. And then he decamped from BookTube and vanished. And I wondered why. So in our next shirtless Skype session, I asked him, and I said, "Are you coming back to BookTube?" And he said, "No, I can't, because he has taken ship." Because he considered that it was a drizzly November in his soul and that he needed to go to sea again. Easy come, easy go for the BookTube world. But in honor of April Adventures, I thought that I would show you a starter kit of great adventure stories. Stressing one thing to start off with here, which is that these are not nautical adventures, because we don't have that kind of time. And because I think I've also done a starter kit on nautical adventures at least once on this channel. But these are books chronicling adventures of one kind or another that might really interest you. And you might be wondering, well, you're making a starter kit, but are you doing an adventure for April Adventures? Yes, I am doing an adventure for April Adventures. I am doing something that no booktuber has ever done. I am wandering into territory where no booktuber, no YouTuber has ever gone. I'm making 10 videos in one day. And I don't want to hear any words about how, well, it's not an adventure if it's easy for you. Okay. So we're going to start the starter kit here with Jan Morris. And it was an epic traveler right at the time when that was changing from being wild and woolly to being thoroughly ordered with suitcases crammed with kaopectate. This is her book, The World. A big compendium of her travel writings that is just wonderful. Oh, this author is so good at writing travel stuff, and travel writing is going to be the bulk of this list. That's where you go to have adventures in most cases. There's one very big exception on this list that we'll get to. But Jan Morris has lots and lots of books. There's one on Venice. There's a bunch of smaller books. But if you can find this thing, especially a hardcover of this thing, if you can find a hardcover with a dust jacket of The World by Jan Morris, you should grab it. Not to read it and keep it, but to put it in a box and send it to me. So that's recommendation number one. Then the great Martha Gellhorn, who is largely forgotten now, even though she was great at writing nonfiction and great at writing fiction. And she's not forgotten because of the whims of chance. She's forgotten because she made the mistake of knowing Ernest Hemingway, who absolutely could not abide anyone getting any kind of literary attention other than himself, and torpedoed a number of literary careers. But nevertheless, Martha Gellhorn's books do exist, and she wrote a travel memoir in which, ironically, Hemingway features. This is called Travels with Myself and Another, and it is really, really good. If you have never read Martha Gellhorn, I won't say if you're a dude bro, you should read Martha Gellhorn instead of Ernest Hemingway, because you won't, and we both know it. But if you're a normal person who has been force-fed Hemingway for your whole life, first in grade school, then in high school, then in college, and no one's ever even mentioned Martha Gellhorn, then maybe you should read something by her. And you could start with this. She's a really good travel writer. Then we have a travel writer from the old school before travel became domesticated. I've mentioned him on this channel many times. He's terrific. If you see him in a used bookstore, no one will put any value on his book, so his book probably won't be expensive. And his name is Richard Hallebertton, and probably his most famous book is The Royal Road to Romance, where he travels through deserts and shimmering oases and into all sorts of strongholds and cities and whatnot where no white man had gone before. And he lives to tell the tale and writes about it all in amazingly buoyant prose. He's just wonderful to read, any Hallebertton that you find. Then we can move to more contemporary travel. One of the best contemporary travel adventure writers out there is Red OHanlin. And he wrote a book called In Trouble Again. Always look for that. The old vintage Departures line. Oh my God. Look for that logo and that title, because whoever was in charge editorially of this line, they were so good. So many books in this line. They were wonderful. In fact, if you're dying for really great travel writing and you don't want to miss a beat, you want every book to be good, probably, I haven't checked, but probably you could go on eBay and simply type in vintage departures. Probably you could buy the whole set, or a huge number of them. But this is his river travel, but also his overland trek between the Amazon River and the Orinoco River, and that's horrific. That area, at least when he did it, it's horrific. The whole area is horrific to travel in. I have traveled in this exact area pretty much foot for foot in a lot of what's chronicled in this book, and it's grotesque. It's just grotesque. You will not have a moment's comfort. But he's really funny and really personal. Really makes his travel writing into a kind of adventure story. Same thing with this next author. Again, I've praised on this channel many, many times. The author is Freya Stark. Anything of hers that you can find, you should read. She's really good. She's largely forgotten, but she's really good. And I just recently found this. I found The Valley of the Assassins of her travels in Persia. And it's great. I mean, Hallebertton and Richard Burton, the explorer, going to places where no white man has ever gone before. Well, how much more compounded is that when it's a woman? These are, and also a striking woman. Freya Stark looked like a being from another world. And her travel writing is gorgeous. It's even better prose than Martha Gellhorn. And I bet Martha Gellhorn would have admitted that. Any Freya Stark that you can find, Valley of the Assassins is a great place to start. Then we have a book by Dick Bass, Frank Wells, and Rick Ridgway. This is a classic. I have seen it in so many dude bro action huts of one kind or another. This is their classic book, Seven Summits, where a group of men decided to climb the tallest mountain on all 7 continents. With predictable results, because some of those mountains, some of the tallest mountains on some of those 7 summits are man killers. They are places where at their upper reaches no living thing is meant to be, including some places where I have never been. Some of these very high summits I have never been. Not necessarily because I've never had an opportunity, but because I've never seen the allure. I know it's not in the spirit of April Adventures to talk about how gross it is to be taking an adventure, but you're going up onto, pardon to Tolkien, the hard horn of the world. You're going up onto the tops of these pinnacles where your body is dying from lack of oxygen. Every minute, your body is dying from lack of oxygen, where there's no possibility that you can keep your extremities safe. At least at the time when this was happening. This was long before there were comfort package tours to the tops of Everest and whatnot. This has a lot. Any of you who've read Into Thin Air by John Krakauer will know a lot of the nature of this kind of writing. Mountaineering writing has a very particular tone to it, and this definitely does. Really enjoyable to do. Again, I'd love to find a hardcover of this. I only ever see the crappy trade paperback. Then this next one is April Adventures. I've talked about going into deserts and oases and Muslim monasteries and whatnot, places that are dangerous to go to, or the Amazon basin, God help us, where you'll be eaten alive by bugs and everything that moves is poisonous and all of it wants to kill you. All those places are perilous, yes, but you can go there. You can go there. You can hide, you can disguise yourself, you can black your face, you can go there. Or you don't need to take those efforts, you can just go there on your own. It might be full of hardship. The southern flank of K2 is hardship embodied, yes, but you can go there. What about an adventure to a place where you can't go? A truly foreign world. Well, this next adventure, when I thought of making this list, it was one of the first books that came to my mind, even though it's not like any of the others. This is by Nora Vincent, and the book is called Selfmade Man, where she learns how to be a man. Not just dress as one, but act like one, sound like one, walk like one. She learns how to be her man. She transforms herself into a man in order to go into male spaces. At a time, this book was like 30 years ago, at a time when that is truly a foreign world. That's not just someplace that you can go. That's someplace where you're not welcome, where you won't go. It will change. It will change if you look at it as a woman. It will change itself. It'll change its own contours. She wanted to see what would be like to be in those spaces when those contours aren't changed. What would it be like to go to a seedy sports bar where a woman would be in danger and would certainly change the tenor of the whole room, even if she weren't? What was it like to go to a bowling league? There are no ladies anywhere in the building. What would it be like to be there as a man? And the book is amazing. Absolutely amazing. It is totally eye-opening. And in the way of all great adventure stories, it's unsettling. It will unsettle the way you think of the world, as all adventure stories should. So believe it or not, I recommend this very much so, even though it's not a stereotypical adventure story. But we can move back to stereotypical adventure stories. Nora Vincent went where no woman had gone before. She went to male spaces. And that's a pretty brave thing to do. Think about, 30 years ago, but think about now, if a woman were discovered in some of those spaces. It would be pretty uncomfortable. I'm not saying it would always be dangerous, but it would be pretty uncomfortable. But then we can return to the old school adventurers who did go where no man had gone before, and who did it with a parasol and some sensible boots and an absolutely unstoppable sense of courage. And that is Mary Kingsley. The great Mary Kingsley, Travels in West Africa. A hit of a book. Some of the books on this list were actually publishing phenomenon, and this is one of them. She was amazing, and her adventures in West Africa are amazing to read. I was very, very happy when Penguin Classics took this up. I had an old trade paperback of this forever and ever, but I much prefer the Penguin Classic, which has a really good introduction, and the book is every bit as captivating now as it was then. And the more you know about Mary Kingsley, the more interesting she is. Let's just put it that way. The more you know about her, the more interesting she is. The anecdotes abound about her. How her friends introduced her to a new group of friends, and this group of friends were walking with her in the park, and at one point the path diverged into some low-lying bramble that they had to cross to get to the next path. And they were all aflutter. The new friends were all aflutter and saying, we didn't know this was here. Oh, this is making a terrible impression. Shall we turn around? They were saying this to Mary Kingsley, who had faced down rhinos on the African plains. Great moments. So this is an absolute classic of adventure writing. If you haven't found it, it is in the Penn Classic line now, so you can find it. Then we have this next one. I debated whether or not to put this on here or whether or not to swap it out for The Worst Journey in the World by Apsley Sherrod. I eventually chose this book because it is great. And the reason I hesitated is because there are people I know who would very much object to this being called an adventure story. They would say it's so much more than that. And I agree, it is. But it's also a great adventure story. This is Lawrence of Arabia. This is Seven Pillars of Wisdom, his great masterpiece. One of the greatest works of prose in the 20th century. About the Arab Revolt. But about so much more. There's adventure on almost every page of this book. So although I agree with people who say this is much more, it's a much bigger thing than that. It's like calling Moby Dick an adventure story. I agree with the people who say that, but it is still that. And so I wanted to include it on this list. And you would think, since I consider it a great work of literature, that it would be number one. But no, no, on a list like this, there's only one number one. And when it comes to adventure stories, there's only number one. And that's Marco Polo. Now, some of you will roll your eyes here because some of you know, a couple in person and plenty of you through this channel, how far back I go with this book. I have been over so much of this world with this book with me. Not this particular edition, but this book has been with me in so many places. The Amazon basin, the flanks of most of those 7 summits, all of West Africa, and so much more. Of course I have a soft spot for this book, but nevertheless, I still maintain that it belongs as number one. These are the adventures of the Venetian merchantman Marco Polo, who went far to the east and saw all sorts of wonders and lived at the court of the great Khan and came to dictate a book about his adventures, and said that he had plenty of other adventures that he could tell. I maintain that this is number one, not only for me, of course this is number one for me, but also because this thing has been one of the most popular books in the world. And that you don't get that by accident. So this is going to be number one on your list for an adventure starter kit. so those are all my strong recommendations. I will wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.